Hello. Welcome back to the homestead, and today we are going to be talking all about what we are doing this winter to get our garden spaces prepped for the spring, summer, and fall gardens. This space behind me is the space that my husband has actually been working in over the past few months, really, and some of the garden spaces that we've put in have been as recently as last week, and it's getting there. So I've talked before about how I have prepared my garden space up in what we're calling the potager garden, or the kitchen garden, and that is not very much unlike what we're doing here. What we're doing here is we're basically taking like a lasagna garden method, and in a lot of these beds, my husband has taken coffee grounds and wood ash, layered those together with autumn leaves on top, and then put down cardboard and the wood chips. So what he's doing is he's trying to kind of amend the soil as these beds are built, so that in the future it's going to continue to break down and compost in place, and we will eventually get some very beautiful soil, we hope. He's very much the master gardener and I am the very beginner novice, and he's always constantly learning as well. So some of the things that he has kind of taught me is that alone, you really don't want to put wood ash in your garden space unless you have I believe it's acidic soil. But since the coffee grounds are also very acidic, what that's doing is that's canceling each other out, and it's helping to just overall improve the soil health. I think it looks very beautiful. He's got it lined with the heavy duty weed tarp. I know I have spoken in the past how much I hate weed fabric. What I was using was the very flimsy cloth. This is more like a tarp. Most people, I believe, will burn holes into the tarp in order to just plant directly into that. Well, we're kind of using this as a silage tarp. Eventually it's not going to be in the pathways anymore, and the hope is to eventually put in a living pathway, I believe, is his ultimate goal. It's lined with stone. It looks very beautiful. And then you'll see the T-posts behind me. But we've taken fencing and rolled that along the T-posts. And what those are going to be trellises. Now, I'll show some close-ups here. But the space in between the tarp, in between the stone, is where we're going to be planting into those rows. And it's kind of an experiment that he's doing, where he has done the same layering method, but on top now there are stones, and that's just to help prevent weeds from coming up and to help kind of retain moisture and to do a couple of different things. We'll see how that works out this year after the growing season, but his plan is to remove just the stone where we plant. So a lot of this is going to be tomatoes. It's going to be tomatoes, so the heat retention should hopefully not be a big deal. And then by the time the peas come around, we'll see how that works too. Never seen anything like that done. He's always excited to experiment, and I think that is going to be pretty cool. And then you see where I'm standing immediately, there's a much larger bed, and that's for just other crops that we might want to plant. I think bush beans are a big one that we are going to be planting here, because this year the soil is not going to be very good, as it's not going to be as good as it will be next year and next year and next year and next year. The plan is to heal the soil. The plan is to improve the soil each year, and so bush beans are going to help fix some of that nitrogen issues that we've got. So every year it's going to get better and better, but this year it's going to be enough, hopefully, to at least start building up some of our food storages. In the very back, you can see we have some garlic that he has actually done like a second season. That is another experiment. And then even farther than that, we have a little food forest permaculture section that we are experimenting with as well. I have never claimed to be an expert. This is like our second productive year. We're going into our second productive year on this homestead. It's a homestead in the making, honestly, and we're figuring it out. But I just thought that this garden space looked so beautiful, that it is coming along really nicely, and that it's a really great option for anybody who wants to get their garden started. Maybe they have never gardened before and they don't have a space prepared, and you don't necessarily have all of the funds to do like raised bed gardening, because all of that takes money. Now I will say the tarp the tarp is not inexpensive. That was an investment. But everything else, coffee grounds, wood ash from our wood stove, the cardboard, the wood chips, we're harvesting the stone from our property, and the T-posts and fencing are an investment, but not that much. So the plan is still to fence this area in, because if you saw any of my previous videos, that was my biggest issue I had in my garden last year, was the fencing issue. Unfortunately, we have a lot of pests and predators here. We're like in a hollow, so there's not a lot of homes or anything around us, and those that are not necessarily homesteading or farming or gardening. So we're really the end all be all of trying to deal with a lot of this pest pressure. It's fallen on us. So that's one thing that is something to consider if you are one of the only ones around. It's like putting a neon sign up that says eat here, eat here, eat here. So there's something to consider. But this space is one that I am super excited to see develop. And I think that it's going to be a fantastic producer for us in the years to come. One more thing that we have done in this garden is compost in place. And we don't have compost bins yet. We have attempted that before. Unfortunately, the groundhogs tore up our compost. So we have not found a good solution for that to keep those out yet. But what we have been doing is doing a lot of composting in place, where you just dig a hole and put your compost in, cover it up, and then we just built the garden on top of it. So that is another option if you want to try it. That is our garden space. That is how we are prepping for the upcoming growing season. And this is just one of the growing spaces that we're working on. We're about to work on improving the kitchen garden as well. And then we have another plot that we're working on, more of like a market style garden, I believe is the plan. But that probably will not be ready this year. That's probably going to be the next growing season. So thank you for visiting. I hope that you enjoyed this. If you'd like to follow along on our little homesteading journey here, we're taking our aging 80-acre farm and trying to turn it into a productive homestead again. And we're attempting to use more regenerative agricultural practices. So for more homesteading, homemaking, homemade, to follow us on this journey, please hit that subscribe button, like it if you liked it, and let me know down below if you are doing anything to get ready for this next upcoming growing season. And if so, what are you doing? I would love to learn any tips and tricks you have, because like I said, we are beginners. But thank you for visiting, and we will see you next time.